Disclaimer, the comments made in this video are intended for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to offend anyone.
Isn't it incumbent on all of us to protect the people who are endangered by him?
But you never have.
These woke reporters need to go back to journalism classes or join Wicked. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, let's watch the press lie.
Just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank you.
Margaret, the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books.
Tim Walz always looks like blank paper to me. No story, no message, no doodles, he's just there. That's what he was asking a candidate anyway, a blank sheet.
I think any serious person would also say, Congressman, that Donald Trump is a source of heated and dangerous rhetoric over months and years. I mean, even Republicans who support him and are voting for him this election have basically begged him to tone it down. So if Republicans who even support you say that you've got a problem, you need to tone it down. You've got a mayor in Springfield, Ohio saying you guys need to tone it down because we now have bomb threats on schools in our area. There's a problem also, in the general rhetoric of the campaign that the term that is often criticized, but that if you want to say both sides should address. But right? Logically?
Well, actually, let's dig into this a little bit more. And thank you for bringing this up. Yes, we've heard from the Springfield mayor, and nobody wants bomb threats or anything like that. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have been talking about reports coming out of Springfield. J.D. Vance represents the state of Ohio. He's talking about things that his constituents have brought to him. But let's compare that to the fact that Kamala Harris in the debate last week, she lied about Donald Trump's bloodbath comments. Why did she say that? Because she wants to invoke a negative energy around the campaign of Donald Trump, frankly, to affect these undecided voters that we talk about at the top. What is she supposed to talk about?
I mean,
the same,
Congressman, you and I have gone back and forth a lot about
lie
fact-checking that can happen.
Kate, can you acknowledge that Kamala Harris lied about the Charlottesville comments again? Something that even Snopes has debunked and said is fake news, that it is wrong, that his statements were taken out of context. Those are the direct lies coming from Kamala Harris. So if you're going to talk about the invective put into this campaign that Kamala Harris and her campaign has done, trying to invoke a negative response from voters in our country, versus Donald Trump talking about issues, whether it be in a city or, quite frankly, you could bring up Aurora, Colorado, or you could bring up Denver, Colorado, that have been overrun by illegal immigrants.
There are lots of things that can be brought up, which is also, if you're
two.
talking about lies and you're talking about comparisons, you can talk about a long list of lies. We could walk through it. I don't think it is to the benefit of voters right now for me to walk through to remind them of the lies that Donald Trump has told in the past.
She didn't hear a single word he said, did she?
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. I worry so much more about that problem.
They worry more about feelings getting hurt than they worry about lives being taken. I mean, Joe Biden publicly said, how many more lives are being taken by citizens? How stupid is that?
The media claimed that there was like $400 million worth of Cybertrucks being bought by the DoD.
Taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units.
It was fake news 6 ways to Sunday. Tesla's not getting $400 million for Cybertrucks. This alleged award occurred in December before the president took office. So it's fake on multiple levels. Tesla isn't getting $400 million, and even if it was, which it isn't, it was awarded during the Biden administration. Total fake news. It's fake on multiple levels, multiple layers of fake.
Somebody sue Maddow already, or Whoppy. Just sue one of these liars already.
We live in a democracy. As far as I can tell, there was no fraud. We have the rules. We follow the rules. That's the way it goes. Sometimes it goes my way. Sometimes it goes someone else's way. It's a democracy. That's how it works.
So you're okay. You're cool.
This is how it is. I mean, what do we think?
Well, I've been speaking to a lot of women, and they are very emotional and not happy.
I hear you. That would have happened no matter how the election came out.
I don't know about that.
You don't think that if the election went another way, that there'd be a lot of people unhappy?
Of course, no. A lot of people. I said women. I think as guys, we may not understand it.
I mean, I'm obviously not a woman, so I don't know what it's like to be one, but, okay.
No empathy?
Full of empathy.
Can this guy take Don Lemon's spot? Also Don, who is a woman.
So, doubtful it's Republicans attacking Tesla dealerships around the country. It's pretty wild, actually. The other night, Donald Trump said these are domestic terrorists. Everybody laughed about it and scoffed at it. That video looks like terrorism to me. I mean, it's obviously an organized, coordinated effort, however people are communicating with each other, to do this to people around the country who chose to buy a Tesla at some point in the past, many of whom I'm sure are Democrats who bought them in the first place, all because their entire political worldview is ruled by their emotions. And that's the American left right now. It is one angry mob after another willing to take things into their own hands, up to and including keying, firebombing, and otherwise vandalizing cars and car dealerships and charging stations. It's outrageous. It is terrorism. People ought to be put in jail and left there for a very long time and be taught a lesson.
So when they do it to a Tesla dealership, it's really bad. But when they do it to the halls of Congress, we should pardon them. Is that your position?
No, I've never. I don't
Are
support.
you okay with
I know you haven't been around for a while, so let me educate you about my position about January the 6th.
I'm so sorry.
Let me educate you. No. You don't need to. You don't need to be condescending to me. So let me educate you about my position. You want to attack me? Let me finish it. Let me finish it. Let me finish.
Let's do this January 6th and then near.
I'm sorry you're getting emotional.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're a condescending person who hasn't been paying attention to what I do.
Okay. Stop, guys.
So here's the issue. I didn't support what happened on January the 6th and was one of the first Republicans to call it out. I don't support the pardons. I have repeatedly, just like my friend Ashley here, said that no violence in our political system is acceptable. But this right here, what's going on with a guy who helps our country, who runs successful companies, who doesn't have to be doing this, and now one of his companies is under systematic terroristic threat and violence all over the country, and people seem to be laughing about it or fine with it. It's outrageous. I've sat at this table and had people say, we should cut Elon Musk from the government totally. He rescued our astronauts today. Is that what we want? The treatment of this guy is outrageous. These people who are doing this need to be found, put in jail, and made an example of. That's my point.
Anyone who commits violence against Tesla or Congress or anyone else should be put in jail, 1,000%. But that should not stifle dissent or opposition from Elon Musk.
Give it a little lip service. Give it a little both sides. Go ahead.
We're so both sides here. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to say that people are legitimately upset at Elon Musk, and they're doing it on their own, but there is no reason to have violence in the country. But I just wish all of us would support criticism of, or would support punishing people who are violent wherever they are.
Did she drop her mug? That must have been a roller coaster.
Of Justice does not work for the president.
Yes,
the
it does.
Department of Justice works for the American people.
No, it works for the executive branch. It's in the Constitution. It exists in the executive branch.
The lawyers of the Justice Department work for the American people.
You're acting like it's an independent branch of government. It's in the executive branch, run by the president.
I mean, but the lawyers of the Justice Department work for the American people, not for the president of the United States, not the person in the office.
So you don't think anyone in the executive branch is bound to the head of the executive branch?
No. Here's the difference. Here's the difference.
So no one works for the president? Are you guys planning a coup?
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Senator.
Thank
so
you.
within a week of you being named on the VP ticket, the Democratic nominee changed. And you guys seem to be struggling a little bit with how to approach the new dynamic. How are you approaching your new opponent and the new ticket?
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty straightforward, actually. We're running against a set of policies that I think have failed the American people, and we're running to a set of policies, President Trump's 4 years in office, that I think really succeeded for the American people. And I think that what's different about it, and you're right, Dana, it is different, but what's different about it is that we're running against a different person who a lot of Americans just don't know. And so I think we have to remind people that President Trump delivered lower prices, lower inflation, a prosperous and peaceful world, and also a secure border, and Kamala Harris's policies have produced the exact opposite. Now, that was an easier case to make when Joe Biden was in there because people associate Joe Biden with the policies, but I think Kamala Harris clearly owns the policies of the Biden-Harris administration, especially when we consider the fact that, as we've all learned over the last few months, Joe Biden clearly isn't capable of doing the job, and so I think that drives home that Kamala Harris really has been the one calling the shots. I mean, how could she not? I think Joe Biden doesn't really know where he is.
Kamala Harris has been calling the shots, as who?
Well, I think she has to have been, right? Because if she's not calling the shots, Dana, then who is?
Dana shouldn't interview intelligent people. She always ends up making them look good, and that is definitely never the goal. And be for real, Joe Biden doesn't know the direction to walk, but he can somehow steer a whole nation. Give me a break.
There's no evidence that Kamala Harris threw him overboard, but I want to move on to something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird.
Sure.
And it is taken off. The New York Times reports that when Donald Trump was asked about it, he said, "Not me, they're talking about JD."
Well, certainly they've levied that charge against me more than anybody else, but I think that it drives home how they're trying to distract from their own policy failures. I mean, look, this is fundamentally schoolyard bully stuff. They can accuse me of whatever they want to accuse me of. Harry S. Truman once said, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And I'm doing this because I think that me being vice president will help improve people's lives. So I accept their attacks, but I think that it is a little bit of projection, Dana. If you think about, just take a couple of days ago. Tim Walz gives this big speech. He's been announced as the VP nominee. And I remember when I had just been announced as the VP nominee, I gave my big speech and I saw my wife and I gave her a big hug and a kiss because I love my wife and I think that's what a normal person does. Tim Walz gave his wife a nice, firm Midwestern handshake and then tried to sort of awkwardly correct for it. So I think that what it is two people, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who aren't comfortable in their own skin because they aren't comfortable with their policy positions for the American people. So they're name calling instead of actually telling the American people how they're going to make their lives better. I think that's weird, Dana, but look, they can call me whatever they want to.
You're saying Tim Walz doesn't have affection for his wife? I don't even understand that.
I said that he acted weird, which he did, on a national stage in front of his wife and in front of millions of Americans who presumably were watching at home. And I think that it's projection, Dana. Look, I think this election should be about who's going to solve the inflation crisis, who's going to make groceries and housing more affordable, who's going to secure that southern border. Kamala Harris's record is that she supported all of the policies that made that problem worse, Dana. We're trying to say we're going to take the country in a different direction. I really think that it's important to point this out, Dana. Their entire campaign has not been about, here's our policy for how we're going to make your life better, or here's what's wrong with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance's policies. We're going to name call and hope that you don't notice that we don't have an agenda. That is the entire Democrat approach to this election.
They have done both. They have both policies, and they are trying to define you as well.
If you go to Kamala Harris's campaign page right now, they still don't have a policy.
Well, let's talk about policy
positions about what they're going to do. I think that's really insulting to Americans.
There's always that look of regret on her face when she realizes that her questions keep showing him to be the better candidate.
The soldier, as you'll find, I'm not trying to defend him. I hope people don't think that. What I'm trying to do is defend someone who served his country. I'm not voting for him. I'll campaign against him, but I don't think it's fair to characterize his service the way they have. Served 24 years.
Sure.
He even stayed after he could have retired because of 9/11, more than the country asked of him. Do you honor his service?
Well, of course, Dana, I honor his service, and I've never criticized what Tim Walz did when he was in the military. I criticized his retirement decision, and most importantly, Dana, I criticized his lying about his own record, okay? This is a guy who was captured on video saying, I carried a gun in war. He never went to war. He's a guy who's been captured on video. As other people say, he's an Afghanistan veteran. He's a veteran of a war, nodding along in agreement instead of saying, no, I did serve my country and I did it honorably, but I never went to a war zone. I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana.
See? Every smear she throws at him just turns out to be glitter. How sad for you, Dana.
All of our best debates are always about policy, and it should be about policy that affects women specifically. The Romney campaign wants to talk about women and the economy. The women in this country still make 77 cents on the dollar for what men make. So women don't make less than men?
Actually, if you start looking at the numbers, Rachel, there are lots of reasons for that.
Wait. Don't tell me the reasons are. Do women make less than men for doing the same work?
No, because...
Wow. Okay.
Well, for example, men work an average of 44 hours a week. Women work 41 hours a week. Men go into professions like engineering, science, and math that earn more. Women want more flexible
professions. Listen, this is not a math is hard.
No. Yes, it is, actually.
No, it isn't.
Well,
listen.
All right, let Rachel frame it, though, the way she
right now,
laid it out.
women are making 77 cents on the dollar for what men are making.
But that's not true. If so,
let Rachel make her point.
Every greedy businessman in America would hire only women, save 25%, and be hugely profitable.
I feel like this is actually, I mean, it's weird that you're interrupting me and not letting me make my point, because we get along so well, so let me make my point.
I will.
But it is important, I think, the interruption is important, I think, because now we know, at least from both of your perspective, that women are not faring worse than men in the economy, that women aren't getting paid less for equal work. I think that's a serious basis, a difference in factual understanding of the world. But given that some of us believe that women are getting paid less than men for doing the same work, there is something called the Fair Pay Act. There was a court ruling that said the statute of limitations, if you're getting paid less than a man, if you're subject to discrimination, starts before you know that discrimination is happening, effectively cutting off your recourse to the courts. You didn't know you were being discriminated against, you can't go. The first law passed by this administration is the Fair Pay Act, to remedy that court ruling. The Mitt Romney campaign put you out as a surrogate to shore up people's feelings about this issue after they could not say whether or not Mitt Romney would have signed that bill. You're supposed to make us feel better about it. You voted against the Fair Pay Act. It's not about whether or not you have a female surrogate. It's about policy and whether or not you want to fix some of the structural discrimination that women really do face that Republicans don't believe is happening.
It's policy, is the argument.
It's policy, and I love how passionate you are. I wish you were as right about what you're saying as you are passionate about it. I really do.
That's
for example,
condescending. This is a stylistic issue.
I'll tell you what.
My passion on this issue.
Here's a fact.
Is actually me making a factual argument on it. Alex,
may I share one fact with you? When you look at, for example, single women working in America today between the ages of, I think, 40 and 64, who makes more, men or women, on average? Men make $40,000 a year. Women make $47,000. When you take out the marriage factor, look at some economics. My point here is that we're manufacturing a political crisis to get away from what this election really wants to be about.
All right, well, let me bring...
And that's the Obama strategy in this election.
All right, but let's...
I wish you were as rough as you were passionate. Now that is a killer line. I'm going to use that one day.
I do have a second thing, Patricia, I really need to know. One of the things that I've been finding, we got into it a little bit in the discussion, but one of the issues that we're having is, and it's something here, I need your help on something. I need your help because all I seem to be doing lately is fighting back against innuendo and rumor stories. And this is what I seem to be fighting about all the time. In fact, Patricia, part of it is with you.
I'm sure.
And I just need your help because when you start headlines with, there's a rumor going around and that we've heard that hurts my veterans. That scares my veterans. That scares my employees because it's not true. Will you commit to not doing that in the future?
Well, there was a DOJ representative that day.
I have a VA employee who is our DOJ liaison. You knew that and you could ask that question.
I did ask that
But
question.
when you got the answer. But my question here is, I need you to commit to not starting off rumors began circulating.
I mean,
well, if it's either true or false, Patricia, and then you go to Patty Murphy, saying that we've heard and we have DOJ may have barged into the VA today. Unconfirmed hearsay. You know what you'd have done if I was a member of Congress and probably done that? Unconfirmed report. But you didn't put unconfirmed report.
Right.
So, Patricia, I want to work together with you.
Okay.
But I need you to commit to me that you're not going to do this.
I'm working on it.
Patricia's gonna work on not telling blatant lies, sure.
I think it's important to say that, anyone who has experienced or been in the United States for any period of time and experienced this country's history and knows it cannot have believed that it would be easy to elect a woman president, let alone a woman of color. Mm-hmm. Let's just be clear. Mm-hmm. And nothing that was true yesterday about how flawlessly this campaign was run is not true now. I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. She had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Taylor Swiftie to the Swifties. She had the Beehive. Like, you could not have run a better campaign in that short period of time. And I think that's still true.
Man, guys, read the room. I don't understand. How did she not win? She had so many billionaires coming out and saying, definitely vote for her. And she had the Swifties. Taylor Swift came out. Beyonce came out and blessed her with her presence. She had Oprah. How did she lose? I'm so confused. Ladies and gentlemen, they just cannot see themselves. They really are just living on another planet from us.
The Beehive, the Swifties? Seriously? That's your trump card? No pun intended.
What if it's something that's in a comedy sketch? Oftentimes language is used in comedy that's represented on social media.
No, you don't hear it. You don't hear it very much on social media. You're not allowed to do it in comedy.
But that's not a good thing. I don't think silencing speech.
You can't just go out there and calling people names.
I'm not saying calling people names. I'm saying some of these words that they're saying are protected.
Can I say something?
There was a time when there were cartoons when I was a kid, right? And they would make fun of Italians. What's the matter, you? He's a pizza. Everybody was a pizza maker.
Yeah.
And as a child, I felt like that was offensive to me.
Yeah.
Now, the people who are doing this are not from minority groups. They're from majority groups. And so
this is not me saying that every person at the table gets hate speech directed at them every day. No one is.
All right, I guess no one gets to finish a sentence here anymore. Okay.
No, I think the point Alyssa's making here is she is a free speech.
Don't speak for her. She speaks very well for herself.
No, but
Yes, fight. You guys call people Nazis every day, but you're wondering about offensive speech.
You cannot just go and say, I like it, it's mine now. It doesn't work that way. Well, that is what they're trying to do. And in this new world order, yeah, absolutely. When they're looking at Greenland and say, I like it, I want to take it for mine, that is a very colonized
I have never ever said we're going to go to Greenland and, quote, colonize it or steal it.
You're not a member of government, so you're irrelevant at that point. I'm talking about the president of the United States doing that.
You got fired from your job.
You can agitate. If you want to engage in personal insults,
I don't, but you do.
What you lack in the legitimate point, you make up for in personal insults.
I don't. You
personal insults. The point I am making is in this new world order, we are looking at countries, whether or not they're an adversary or ally, it is being determined on what kind of deal we can get. And we cannot govern, we cannot legislate that way. We are increasingly isolated on the world stage.
No, we're not.
So if you want to engage in personal insults,
we're not
if I were
isolated.
you, I would reserve that for your party, who is increasingly isolated. This our position
outside of the United States.
This does not get old.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The View live election special. After 18 brutal months, we're finally here tonight, and we'll find out if the first female major party candidate in American history will break that glass ceiling. Or if Donald Trump's moving from Fifth Avenue to Pennsylvania Avenue. How's it looking right now, Juju?
Right now, we could start with the Electoral College tally, that is the name of the game. The magic number is 270 to win the White House. Right now, that tally, if we can put it up on the board, shows Trump leading 129 to 97. But it's early. It's early yet.
It's way early. Don't depress the audience so early in the evening.
Or at least spike the
Not
drink.
everyone's depressed, Joy.
Well, no, in this room,
I'm sure there are some Trump supporters. I heard a few applauding for Trump here.
And if you look at, there's
she has one fan here.
But there's a tremendous amount of other data that's coming in too. We also have the popular vote, which also Trump is leading 50 to 46 at this point.
The middle of the country we knew was going to be red. We knew that. But I heard that they booed Trump at when he was voting in New York. New Yorkers don't like him.
On the Upper East Side, they did boo him.
What's interesting? Because we know the grenade we're falling on here.
Well, New Yorkers stand for embracing diversity.
And since I'm dealing with major election anxiety, the head bartender at New York City hotspot.
Then all her hopes and dreams completely crashed.
So let's go to Sushin in Times Square.
Yes, well, it certainly has been an emotional roller coaster here. You can really feel it within the audience as I'm sitting here in Times Square. It's pretty quiet. This is the quietest Times Square has been all night, certainly that I've ever seen it, with as many people here. As the race tightens, I think a lot of people are feeling emotion. We've seen tears here. A woman was crying here, really, really upset. A mother and daughter drove all the way from Ohio, and the mom said she's actually having stomach pains. And I think that people are really having an emotional gut check to this. You certainly feel it here. It's just very quiet, very sort of somber, and people are waiting for the results. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you. We're kind of like in the air is out of the balloon. Yes. He just won Utah, too.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I didn't think he was going to take Utah.
We're showing an electoral college map that looks not at all like what we expected coming in. So it's going to be a long night.
It's going to be a scary time for us, I believe, right now in this country. But, you know, what can I say? I'm disappointed that things are not going the way I wanted them to go.
We have to come together. We have to come together as a country.
We'll see what he does. Again, I am a free agent. I have my own brain.
With 30 seconds left to go, ABC News is
Trump. What did you just say to me in my ear?
Yes, ABC News is projecting.
Oh, boy. He took Florida.
And it happened again. You're not a free agent, Joy. Give me a break.
Laura, I want to ask you about something that the former president said last night on that stage, specifically about Hurricane Helene in your home state of North Carolina. He said that FEMA is only offering $750 to Americans who have had their homes destroyed. That's not true. He's also echoing conspiracy theorists online who falsely claim that the administration is redirecting disaster money for undocumented immigrants. That's also not true. Why is he spreading misinformation in a crisis like that? And does that concern you about your fellow North Carolinians and how and whether they could actually get help?
I'm incredibly concerned in North Carolina. I hear every day from people on the ground there, and they are desperate for help. It is a dire situation there. I actually think we don't even know the extent yet of truly how bad it is there. And look, Kamala Harris did come out and say it's $750 per family right now. The idea that we've spent $650 million in fiscal year 24 on the migrant crisis that Kamala Harris was responsible for stopping, and by all accounts she created by having an open door policy at our southern border,
but
is
Laura,
infuriating.
Laura, let me just stop you right there.
Of this country.
Let me just stop you right there because I just want to not let this get out there. You are right.
What do you mean you don't want it to get out there? Let her speak.
Why don't they have anything in order? Why is it that right now the citizens in Western North Carolina are screaming for help, and it's having to come from local citizens? People from my hometown of Wilmington are driving across the state 6 hours to go to the mountains and help people.
It is bad.
Where is our federal government? Why are they out of money?
It is bad there, but my question is about the misinformation, particularly the notion that they are moving money to migrants, to, you say, undocumented migrants, which FEMA says flatly is not true. And if people are not getting correct information, then they can't go for assistance as they have been asked for. I just want to quickly play with Senator Tom Tillis.
Let me just say for 1 second.
Go ahead.
You have migrants being housed in luxury hotels in New York City. We have paid so much money from our tax dollars into the crisis that didn't need to happen. We could redirect money to help people immediately.
Oh shit, you Dana. I really don't like virtual interviews, but I don't like Dana's voice even more.
Can I just weigh in here? Because, you know, I think what Elise Stefanik, the Congresswoman, was talking about, and what this entire hearing was about, should have been about free speech. And free speech, and although many people may feel uncomfortable with it, the most hateful and heinous speech is the most protected speech. Okay?
Campuses have not been good for free speech in years.
Well, but they have been.
They canceled Harvard actually has one of the worst records on free speech.
What you heard was them saying what is completely accurate under the law. It depends on the context. So if someone does yell at a crowd racial slurs or calls for genocide in a public place, in a crowd, that is protected speech. One-on-one confrontation, if a white student, for example, says to a black student a racial slur,
then it's hate speech.
That is
about the codes of conduct.
Just finish
yeah,
this
it's not
for a
talking about
moment,
the law,
please?
though.
But the codes of conduct must adhere to the law. So
but when it's one, when it's protect students.
No, it really can't go against the Constitution of the United States. So when we're talking about this one-on-one type of thing, yes, that is when that conduct leads to harassment and could be actionable by the university, and that's exactly what Harvard.
But as it said, if you have to commit genocide to be able to condemn genocidal language, like that's a dangerous, slippery.
Never thought I'd see the day somebody on The View would make any sense. And of course that somebody isn't Sunny hosting. So about a year ago, Ivy League students publicly called for the genocide of all Jews. It's an Ivy League school, of course Jews go there. But dull Sunny thinks it's protected speech because it was in public. Have one white person chant the N-word like those students called for genocide. Let's see how much speech can be protected.
All right, and if we could stop for a second, I want to say to you, you have a very cute, soft, like a girly voice.
Thank you.
A lot of people say the reason people have girly voice is something bad happened to them at that age. Were you touched at an early age, or were you fine?
That's the creepiest question I've ever heard, and no, but it's so inappropriate, it's not even funny.
You can just guess what kind of videos he watches in his spare time. What a creep.
You have to be really careful out there.
You do. We've had six consecutive days of Did I actually?
Okay. All right. That was a Freudian slip, but we're going to pretend like we didn't hear it.
Someone is getting divorced.
This president and this administration can accuse somebody of being a terrorist and accuse any one of us of being a terrorist and accuse any one of us of being a terrorist and do with us what they will. There's due process that exists in this country for everybody. And the fact that this man received no due process, was effectively disappeared to a foreign country, a country which he came from, which he was basically he got
it's not a foreign country. He lives there.
Excuse me, no, he does not live there.
He's a citizen of El Salvador.
Scott, excuse me, he got asylum in this country.
He's a citizen.
Scott,
does he have asylum?
Excuse me, let me finish.
No, he doesn't.
No, it's not that he.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not that he got asylum. He got a judge to say that he could not be.
Does he have a deportation order?
Excuse me, he could not be. Can you let me finish? He could not be. He could not be rendered back to El Salvador because he was at risk of being harmed in El Salvador. That is what a federal judge. That is what a federal judge.
By who? Who was he at risk of?
Excuse me. That was what a federal judge said. He could not be deported. He could not be. Who could he be at risk by? I don't know.
But a rival gang.
No. Excuse me. Excuse me. Stop. Do you really believe that this guy's an MS-13 member? Because
I got two heads of state telling me that they believe it.
I will never get tired of watching Scott Jennings school these losers.
You're tempting me to say some very harsh things about some of our media friends. Yes, it is true that many of the people in this room for 4 years failed to cover the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incompetent and was not running the country. It is also true that many people in this room who have used this talking point that Elon is not elected fail to understand how government works. So I'm glad for the opportunity for a brief civics lesson. A president is elected by the whole American people. He's the only official in the entire government that is elected by the entire nation, right? Judges are appointed, members of Congress are elected at the district or state level, just one man. And the Constitution, Article 2, has a clause known as the vesting clause, and it says the executive power shall be vested in a president, singular. The whole will of democracy is imbued into the elected president. That president then appoints staff to then impose that democratic will onto the government. The threat to democracy, indeed the existential threat to democracy, is the unelected bureaucracy of lifetime tenured civil servants who believe they answer to no one, who believe they can do whatever they want without consequence, who believe they can set their own agenda no matter what Americans vote for.
I wonder what headlines were published after this civics lesson.
You're a climate change denier?
No, I'm not a denier. I like to have an open debate about it. The problem is...
Why do we debate
just
facts?
a minute, in my experience, anyone who is fanatically believing of climate change, as soon as you try and have a discussion with them, they won't. And, they are part of a cult. Is there climate change? Maybe. Is there not climate change?
There's climate change, there's no doubt. It's a question of how much of it is human.
Hang on a minute. Records only go back 185 years. How do we know?
The thing is, Trump. This is Trump as well.
In climate change science.
I have an inquiring mind.
Right, but scientists Do you?
I do, and I trust scientists who are leading their field
I've got some
at that
homework for
rather
you.
than you.
Climate the movie, YouTube, some of the world's most eminent scientists who are not in the pay of the green agenda.
Isn't it in the
1 minute,
conspiracy theories
19
always come
seconds.
from
1 hour,
YouTube?
19 minutes. Honestly, Gemma, go and watch it.
If it's so factual, then say something intelligent.
According to Bloomberg, Donald Trump is expected to pardon over 1,000 individuals convicted of their involvement on January 6th. Oh, wait, I think I have a clip for this.
He is the president of the United States, and it is his right, and he doesn't have to explain to
You know, I live in Miami. There's tens of thousands of Venezuelan exiles living there. You talk a lot about Venezuela in your new book. I get a lot of political ads from the Republican Party. Donald Trump has tweeted this. Many have tweeted this. If you vote for Democrats, they will turn the United States into Venezuela. Do you think that's a fair statement to make?
Well, if you vote for a socialist, you might get socialism.
Come on, don't do that. Maduro is not a socialist. He's a corrupt, murderous thug who is starving his people.
That's not true.
That's not true? Maduro's not a thug and a murderer
it's not
who's
true.
starving his people.
Let's have a conversation here. Chavez was a socialist, and socialism was the economic system
And
of
they
Venezuela.
stole. It's a
And so-
kleptocracy. It's
I know,
not
but
socialism.
But here's the question is, they voted for socialism. They voted for, let me finish.
No, I can't let you finish. If you're going to say Maduro's not a murderous thug, I'm not letting you finish. Because it's a damn lie. And I've got a bunch of neighbors and friends who know this. Don't do this to me. Don't mansplain. I'm a 47-year-old girl.
So is he a socialist or not? He is. But yes, then to offense and tantrums as soon as you don't get your way, you overgrown child.
I so appreciate your courage, Anna, in standing up. I so appreciate those like you who are willing to call out the president face to face by name and saying this is not who we are as a nation. And I would say to you and to everybody like you, consider coming over.
Let me ask you.
We need to stay in the Republican Party
but
because,
you've already gone.
But I'm
because
just saying.
people. No, actually, I was a Republican when the president you support was a Democrat, and I was a Republican when the president you support was an independent.
If you're a Republican, I'm Luis Fonsi.
Maybe you are Luis Fonsi. You can start singing Despacito here. But I am a Republican. I supported Ronald Reagan. I've supported every single Republican nominee for president.
And donated to every.
So has the
Menendez.
Yeah, I supported Bob Menendez.
Debbie
You know what?
Wasserman
So
Schultz.
did Jared Kushner. So did Charlie Kushner. So did Donald Trump.
Right.
Okay. So that doesn't bother you?
No, it doesn't
You know how to
bother
spell
me.
hypocrisy?
Oh,
Or should I spell it out for
I'm
you?
just telling you that what all this charge of racism against.
Donald Trump supported Nancy Pelosi. Donald Trump had Hillary Clinton at his wedding. Donald Trump had Bill Clinton at his wedding. And you're going to accuse me of
I'm
not
just
being a
telling you, you don't
Republican?
represent the Republican view
No,
anymore. You haven't for quite some
I
time.
proudly do not represent the Trumpist view. And Donald Trump is not a Republican.
No, you are not a Republican, and that's okay. What are you even fighting about?
Illegal immigrants are causing tremendous crime, tremendous.
Immigrants commit less crime than U.S.-born citizens.
Illegal immigrants. I'm talking about illegal immigrants. I'm not talking about immigrants. I'm talking about illegal immigrants. I'm an immigrant. You're an immigrant. We're all immigrants.
The Pew Research says that there are, for immigrants on the whole,
Come on, try getting it out. Try getting it out.
I'll get it out.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to put this on television, but you don't even know what you're talking about. Try getting it out. Go ahead.
Yes, giggle in embarrassment, but never get it out.
Whether it's got less or more, I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
You
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why, because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore, because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
And
said
actually,
you-
a lot of people are quite similar. I only
Well,
look at
hang on
my
a second.
following.
You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and
Well, then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Like a child caught in a lie. He's got magic powers. He doesn't use X, but he has seen all the hateful content the platform.
I see you. I see you over there.
I have a very quick statement.
It's not going to be that quick.
Pete Hegseth has denied any wrongdoing. His lawyer said he paid the woman in 2023 to head off the threat of a baseless lawsuit. No charges were ever brought.
You rushed me for that?
At this rate, Sunny Hosting is going to explode with having to tell the truth every episode. Sorry, the wokies call it a legal note.
sponsored 2 pieces of legislation opposing critical race theory. What is critical race theory in your view?
Oh, critical race theory actually comes from critical theory. And essentially what it does at the graduate level, it talks about the implications of racial policies in the past in American history, their impact on society today.
Their impact on law.
Hold on. The issue with critical race theory, if you distill it down into K-12 education, is you do not have the ability to have the detailed conversation of critical race theory at the graduate level. And so here's my question. If it seeps down into K-12 education, is it stuff that students are not prepared to be dealing with? Shouldn't students just be learning about reading, writing, and arithmetic?
And so you don't believe that students should be learning about the racial history of the country? Because critical race theory is not taught. Hold on. Critical race theory is not taught in a single K through 12 school.
That's not true.
One moment. It's a legal theory that's taught in law schools. Okay, we're going to have to come back and continue this conversation. We're actually literally out of time. They're telling me we have to go.
Okay.
Critical race theory is not taught in our schools, and learning about racial history actually would be good for you.
It's your show. I'm going to give you the last word, but we're going to do this again.
We can come back. Byron Donalds, thank you.
Man, Joy is such a liar. Lady, you were not out of time. You just didn't want him to tell the truth.
On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also
I don't
saying
know why you'd
that
say
the
that.
president.
It's such a racist
There are
question.
some people that say that now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists
Oh, I
because
don't
of your
believe
rhetoric.
that. I don't
What do
believe
you make of that?
Let me tell you, it's a racist question.
And Mr. President, I want to
love
ask.
it. You know what the word is? I love our country. I do. You have nationalists, you have globalists. I also love the world. And I don't mind helping the world, but we have to straighten out our country first. We have a lot of problems.
And Miss,
excuse me, but to say that, what you said is so insulting to me. It's a very terrible thing that you said.
Would any other president be asked that question? Why was no one grilling Biden about selfishly pretending like he was running the show?
Democrats who say, oh, in private meetings, I've seen Joe Biden do cartwheels and handstands while doing trigonometry while solving all the nation's problems. We now know that every single person who said that has been lying to the American people.
Scott Jennings always stuns those liars into silence.
Give us the Jennings response at that table.
Oh, please. Donald Trump's gotten more votes every time he's run for 3 straight elections. He won the national popular vote for the first time for a Republican since 2004. And his party won the House and the Senate. The American people have given him a mandate to govern. They want the Republican Party to take action. And you, sir, bringing this up to me at the table would be wise to tell your party, don't be obstructionists, because I don't think the American people are going to like it.
Ooh, he is not getting the last crescent roll.
Yeah, well, I can see why you're down on Kamala Harris. I mean, she was one of the worst Democratic nominees of our lifetime. And presidential campaigns have a way of revealing the talent levels of the people who are in them. And I think we found the ceiling she bumped up against. If you hadn't remembered it from 2020 or 2019, she'd make it to 2020. Now you really have seen it on display, and maybe she'll try it again in 4 years from now. We'll never know if another Democrat could win, but I'll tell you this, Joe Biden and his administration and what Kamala Harris helped him do have tainted the Democratic Party. It delivered Republican majorities in Washington, D.C., and now their party is in the wilderness trying to figure out what went wrong. And the American people are expecting Republicans to lead us out of this malaise, if you will, that we've been in for the last 4 years.
Something's happening.
See what I mean?
you've said repeatedly that you think that some of the equipment that governors are requesting they don't actually need. You said New York might not need 30,000. You said it on Sean Hannity's Fox News. You said
you know,
that
why don't you people act? Let me ask you.
You said
why don't you act in a little more positive? It's always trying to
My question to you is
get you. And you know what? That's why nobody trusts the media anymore.
My
That's
question
why
to you is,
people,
how is that going to
excuse
impact?
me, you didn't hear me. That's why you used to work for the Times and now you work for somebody else. Look, let me tell you something. Be nice. Don't
Mr.
be
President, my
threatening.
question
Don't
is-
be threatening.
Well, if it isn't Yamiche Alcindor, we meet again.
Says that you have.
I mean, I want to see your face when you're asking this question and the way you're going to ask it. Look a man in the eye before you try to kill him or make up something. Look me in the eye. I read papers every day. I read you guys every day.
I think it's the same with all of us. It's quite sad when you start to think about it.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it?
Honestly, no one wants to watch the news play out the movie in their heads. It might be more productive to watch a crying wicked interview.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
I said, I'll never be able to understand how anyone could vote for a man who is capable of mocking a reporter's disability in front of a cheering crowd. And that's when somebody reached out to me privately and sent me a link to a video entitled Debunking the Trump Mock the Disabled Reporter, showing that he does this bit anytime he's imitating anybody who's flailing because they're caught in a lie.
Oh, ISIS is very tough. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. But you know what? You get me out of here.
And for the first time ever, this light went on in my brain, and I was like, why did CNN make me think that he mocked that reporter's disability? Because that really disturbed me. And I was like, how often is this happening?
CNN is only still alive and kicking because of Scott.
Hilarious to see these millionaire media pundits on TV clutching their pearls about someone standing a murderer when this is the United States of America, as if we don't lionize criminals. A huge disconnect between the narratives and angles the sort of mainstream media pushes and what the American public feels. And you see that in moments like this. And I can tell you, I saw the biggest audience growth that I've ever seen, because people were like, oh, some journalist is actually speaking to the anger that we feel. So you're gonna see women especially that feel like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man, which is hard to find.
This is a journalist coming undone to Luigi Mangione, an alleged killer. I think she's mixing up famous and infamous. Morally good man? Is this a skit?
The reality is, this wasn't a Maryland father. This was a El Salvadorian man who was illegally in this country, who was affiliated with MS-13.
There is no evidence to that.
Let's set the record straight about who this person is.
There is no evidence that he was a gang member.
With all due respect, if the Department of Justice has come out and said that he has gang affiliations, just like the same man who killed Rachel Morin had gang affiliations. So you would have told me before Rachel Morin's death, you would have defended that man and said he had no gang affiliations, and he went on to kill Rachel Morin. So instead of defending this gentleman, talk about who he actually is and talk about the risk in keeping illegal criminals in this country. This is exactly what President Trump was elected to do, return these people back to their home countries, and that's what he did.
We're not defending him. I'm going to reiterate that is unsubstantiated. There is no evidence of him being a gang member. He is married to a U.S. citizen, and he was in this country legally.
Being married to an American doesn't dissolve his criminal history. Gan-He members are not allowed.
Have you watched Adolescence yet?
No, I haven't. I probably won't. It's a film on Netflix, and most of my time right now is spent visiting country.
It's a 4-part series on Netflix, and everyone is talking about it. It is prompting conversations about toxic masculinity, smartphone use, young men feeling that they're being ignored, the idea of misogyny being increased in school. Why would you not want to know what people are talking about?
Well, I think that those are all important issues, and those were issues that I've been talking about for a long time. In the same way that I don't need to watch Casualty to know what's going on in the NHS, I don't need to watch a specific Netflix drama to understand what's going on. It's a fictional series. It is not a documentary. What I've been talking about recently, for instance, is banning smartphones in schools. I've been going to schools all around the country. I was in Evesham just yesterday, talking to head teachers, talking to the students, and they talk about the problems that phones are causing.
The difference this documentary has made compared to, say, a politician, any politician, leader of a party, the Prime Minister, going around talking in schools, is this has made much more of an impact than any politician has in terms of what people are talking about right now. So it's really confusing that you don't want to know how this has made an impact, how parents are now saying we need to know more about smartphone use.
I can read what people are saying about it. I look at research. This is something that I've been looking at for a long time.
You wouldn't want to know straight from the horse's mouth.
One of the things that I'm more bothered by is the fact that just yesterday we had Labour telling us that they're not going to be investigating the rape gang scandal, something which had happened all across the country. That's real. That's happening right now. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a fictional documentary.
Do you think
we had thousands of, if I may just finish, we had thousands of victims, female victims. Those are girls, young women, and some boys too. I met the mother of a boy who killed himself after being a victim. I want to talk about that because that is real. And yes, I'm glad glad that the Netflix drama is something that people are talking about, but it is not the only thing. There are many other things that are going on. And my job as opposition leader is to hold the government to account, get them to hold a full national inquiry on what is one of the biggest scandals in our country.
And do you stand by the thing you just said a moment ago, that you're comparing adolescents with casual, these TV programs? Did you really mean to say that?
I'm saying very clearly that my job is not to watch lots of TV. My job is to get out there and make sure that I'm talking about the issues that are happening in the country right now. And yes, of course, we should be talking about misogyny. The rape gang scandal is one of the most misogynistic incidents that has happened in our country. So me talking about that, me asking for a national inquiry is doing my job. But telling me that I should go home and watch Netflix is you trying to tell me how to do my job. But I don't think that's how to do my job. I can read about...
At what point did I tell you?
Well, you've just said that you were surprised that I have.
Period. This actually went on for over 5 minutes. Why is an elected official not watching Netflix? Are we being serious?
In 387 years, only 2 women have been president of Harvard University. The first woman was before Claudine Gay. Only 1 black woman has been president. And that black woman now, 6 months after, has resigned from her job because, and look at the statement, it's in the best interest of Harvard to resign so the community can navigate with focus on the institution rather than an individual. Harvard decided that it was unable to continue to weather the storm. And while I don't think the culture wars, frankly, that play out on campuses across the country will eventually have the biggest effect in general come 2024. What will have an effect, as Doug said, is how Jewish students feel on college campuses, how Arab American students feel on college campuses, and how every black professional in America can turn on their television today, see this news about Dr. Claudine Gay, and all have the same reaction. It looks as though she was targeted.
It's interesting stuff.
But you used your own term. You said she was horrific, and then we had a series of scandals. She then targeted herself. Again, she was worse than cockfighters in testifying before Congress.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a low bar.
I guess I will just say this, is that, again, 387 years, much like when we talked about classified documents with former presidents and vice presidents, and I have said, there's no protocol in which to pack up a president or vice president leaves office. And I think if you go to any home of a former president or vice president, you might accidentally find a classified document or two. Not necessarily nuclear secrets, but maybe a piece of paper that they shouldn't have took out. Same thing. Look at what other presidents of Harvard have been investigated for plagiarism. And if we want to be very specific, which I think we should, the issues of plagiarism, it is loose citations. Again, not something I would want to do, but all I'm saying is...
Some of it was your old-fashioned plagiarism.
There's so much there. It's like, what do we even do with this? But it's not plagiarism, guys. It's loose citations. They rewrite history right in front of us in real time. It's extraordinary. Imagine if a kid at Harvard, it doesn't even matter what discipline they were in, hands in a paper.
The president of Harvard was accused of being a plagiarist, but somehow she was targeted. Targeted? Where do these race baiters come up with this stuff?
To be a black person in 2024 in America is to be in a state of complete perplexed confusion about what is wrong with a country that hates your history, to this day can't admit even the basics of what was done to your ancestors, can't accept any responsibility for the lack that has carried through the entirety of the existence of you in this country, and think 60 years of relative freedom is enough. And to find out that literally Barack Obama's 2 terms as president are your reparations, and Juneteenth, which you already celebrated anyway, is your reparations, and yet you built this country. You literally physically built this country, and yet the attitude toward you from a lot of your peers and your fellow citizens is just shut up and be grateful.
Now hold on a minute. Joy is a first-generation American. What exactly do you know?
Did serve in the previous administration.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. Oh, I see. You didn't tell me that, John. You didn't tell me that. Did serve in the previous administration. You mean the Obama administration. Thank you for telling me that. See, there's a typical fake news deal.
You asked me when she was appointed. I told you when she was appointed.
You're a third-rate reporter, and what you just said is a disgrace, okay? You asked me, you said, sir, just got appointed. Take a look at what you said now. I said, when did this person, how long in government? Well, it was appointed in the Obama administration. Thank you very much, John.
Sir?
Thank you very much. You will never make it. Go ahead, please.
On the ventilator.
It's official. You will never make it is the craziest statement in this entire video. We have a winner.
But there's a public perception that that was part of a apology tour, if you will. That this had been said online. There was all of the criticism. There was advertisers leaving. We talked to Bob Iger today.
I hope they stop. Don't advertise.
You don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money.
Are we shocked that he doesn't care?
He has a tractor and he smashes up old cars just to get tension out of him.
Did you ever run up to someone and say, hey, how did you get so rich? And the woman said, by riding on my mom's coattails, and you said, Melissa, this is my show.
I don't think so. And I think we're going to end the interview right now. Don't get so f***ing smart.
What a complete idiot.
The reason they settled that lawsuit is because they had a PR problem. It's like at Fox News when you have, hosts who are allegedly harassing people. Fox News throws money at that to make that PR problem.
That face. I would pay to see that on a bad day.
So I thought what you said was fascinating because you called it bull when you said people can't, pull themselves up. Do you think that race plays a part in wealth distribution or either a mindset that you can't
Today?
or cannot? Yeah.
No.
You don't?
No, I don't. You and I, we're proof. Why would race have anything to do with it? Put your mind to what you want to do and go for that. It's kind of like religion to me. It's a good excuse for not getting there.
I said, and it's probably get me in trouble, but I said to some of my colleagues recently, I know that it's an issue, but it seems like every single day on television I'm talking about race, and it's because of the news cycle, it's in the news, but sometimes I get so tired of talking about it, I want to just go, this is over, can we move on?
And if you talk about it, it exists.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like it exists and we refuse to talk about it, but making it a bigger issue than it needs to be is the problem we have.
Now wait a minute. Did we just catch Don Lemon telling a straight-faced lie? He's tired of talking about race. This interview happened in 2014 when he was still working for CNN. It's currently 2024. He's an independent reporter and he's still talking about race.
China is at the forefront of this fentanyl thing, and I think the real tariff war is not going to be on Mexico or Canada. It's focused on a cheater, a liar, a stealer since 1999 when they came into the WTO. This is a country, not the people, but the leadership, that just doesn't want to play by the rules, and I live it in my businesses every day. I would like to go to DEFCON 1 with China, tariffs 400%, I brought it up, bring the supreme leader to Washington, or crush his economy until he has riots in the streets for
Again,
food.
we've had strategies to deal with China.
No,
that don't
we haven't.
Oh, absolutely
Not
we have.
one administration since '99 has dealt with
I
them.
thought Trump was going to be tough on China. He had 4 years to do
He's going to get
I was going to
tougher
say
on
the
This
TPP.
is time to really put
So
the
is
screws.
35% tariff enough for China then? Because he says it's going to be 10% higher than Mexico and Canada.
No, it's not enough.
Okay.
What you have to do is target parts of their economy where there's a lot of workers. Just for an example, let's say yoga mats. Let's say we import 1 million yoga mats a month. All the yoga mat factories, 400% tariffs on yoga mats. They all get unemployed. They go to the streets. They scream at Supreme Leader, I'm starving, riots. That's when he wakes up and says, wow, I can't sustain my Supreme Leader.
By we, does she mean Biden and Harris? Because no, they didn't do anything. I don't get it though. These countries will stomp on America if they had the chance, but they want to baby them. This is why strong leaders are needed in a country.
I mean, we don't know who did this shooting, by the way, the Super Bowl shooting.
We have some idea.
What?
If it were a white man shooting, we'd know.
Well, we don't know. But they haven't.
That's how we know it's not a white man. I can tell you that much.
Do you think they were repressing that reporting?
They wouldn't tell us about the transgender woman that shot up the Christian school for what, like a year? Oh, San Bernardino out here. Remember the crazy terrorist Muslims? That's when I first noticed, they're not telling us who it is. It's not a white male. The longer they go without telling you, it's not a white male.
Okay, well, for this one, for right now, as of Friday night, February 16th.
We know.
We don't officially know. Okay, you have special powers.
It ended up being 2 black guys actually, but you know how it is. The DEI minority and oppression agenda must suffer no loss. She was right, and Bill Maher was trying to stick with the agenda.
Believe that X and you have some responsibility to moderate hate speech on the platform, that you wouldn't have to answer these questions from reporters about the Great Replacement Theory as it relates to Democrats. I don't have to answer these questions. The Great Replacement Theory as it relates to Jewish people. Do you think that?
I don't have to answer questions from reporters. Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
Get in trouble. Don Lemon should try a career in comedy.
Who is in charge? Because I've been saying it for a while.
Yes, you have.
I've been saying that I think Elon Musk believes he's president. I do.
Well, you've been calling him vice president.
I've called him vice president. I called him president because I don't know what JD is doing. I hardly ever say. I don't remember last time we even talked about JD.
You're right. He's planning the presidency when they get rid of Trump.
So you think it's Musk? Musk Vance?
Possible.
Hey, you know who? Stay away from the stairways. Because, people put the leg out to trip you going down the stairs. Watch out.
These people have lost the plot years ago.
My question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
I
think it's a very nasty question. I have answered the question. I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir.
And of course, I saved the best for last. And that is a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next one.